organised by the International Society of Nephrology and hosted by the Canadian Society of Nephrology and La Société Québécoise de Nephrologie. This year's World Congress of Nephrology is a gathering of thousands of participants and leading experts in kidney healthcare to exchange the latest science and discuss the newest clinical applications designed to improve kidney health and prevent kidney disease worldwide. Welcome to the ISN's WCN Daily Show. Welcome back to the final episode of the WCN Daily Show, where we've another great lineup with a discussion from Congress awardees Bill Kauser, Carl Nath, Katalin Shustak and Tushar Vacharajani. ISN Scientific Chair Claire Sharp also joins us for one last time to tell us about her featured sessions on the final day of WCN 2021. Well, Monday finishes strong with many great experts giving us insight into the world of nephrology and kidney health. So thank you for joining us today.
Monday is going to be a busy and exciting day, full of high-quality sessions. The ones I'd particularly like to highlight are the late-breaking clinical trial session, in which some recently completed important clinical trials will report their outcome data. We're also going to hear some post-hoc analyses from large and influential trials that have reported over the last couple of years, and which have the potential to change the way we deliver care to patients with chronic kidney disease, both with and without diabetes. This session will also include talks from authors of the highest scoring submitted abstracts, so this session really shouldn't be missed. We'll also be treated to the final plenary session to be given by Professor Sophia Ahmed. She'll focus on sex and gender in nephrology and how these impact on outcomes in ways we may not have considered previously. She's a strong advocate for up-and-coming researchers in nephrology, and I'm really looking forward to what I'm sure is going to be a fantastic talk. And finally, at the end of the day, I'm going to be joining the session on artificial intelligence. There are so many opportunities that access to big data can bring, but it's vitally important we understand the power of using these data and that we do it in both an ethical and an equitable way.
Now for our final discussion session on the WCN Daily, I'm delighted to welcome the Congress awardees. Thank you all so much for joining us. Let me start by asking you all the same question. What made you focus your career on nephrology? Carl, let's start with you.
As I look back, Sam, I think there are three reasons. The first is when I read physiology as an undergraduate student at the University of Edinburgh, I became very much imbued by the concept of the constancy of the internal milieu by Claude Bernard and homeostasis by Cannon. The second reason, I am first and foremost an internist. And I would argue that nephrology, more than any other subspecialty, is fundamentally charged with the mandate of being an internist. And the third reason is that when I encountered what was called in those days, in the late 80s, acute tubular necrosis, much of the research was looking at mechanisms, and I wanted to look at adaptive responses.
And Katalin, let me ask you the same question. What made you focus your career on nephrology?
So my interest in nephrology came as a surprise to me. I received my PhD in electrophysiology. Then in the very second rotation, during my internship, I encountered a very young woman with very severe hypokalemia. So this was connecting with me very, very quickly, how basic research discovery in the biophysics of the channel transporters is actually leading to a disease in a patient.
And Tushar, how about you? What made you focus your career on nephrology?
Looking back, nephrology, me landing up in nephrology was purely by chance. That was my very first elective rotation. And then over the years, of course, I have tried to focus on specialized aspects of nephrology, which has really kept me engaged. And for the past 2 decades, I've been working primarily on patients, treating them with the dialysis therapy, as well as the much needed dialysis vascular access and its related problems.
And Bill, let me come to you finally. What made you focus your career on nephrology?
Well, it's a great story. My entry into nephrology came by virtue of a patient contact. When I was an intern at the University of California in San Francisco, I was assigned to take care of a young man who had pulmonary hemorrhage and renal failure and classical Goodpasture syndrome. And I found that really, really attractive. I mean, it was connected to a patient. It was a field of immunology and kidney disease that really didn't exist in divisions of nephrology at that time. And I was really excited about that opportunity.
Well, that's a great story, Bill. Thank you so much. Now, I had an individual question for you all. Kathleen, let me start with you. What contribution have you made to the nephrology community that is the most meaningful to you?
So my contribution has been understanding what are the key genes, what are the key cell types, and the mechanism of kidney disease development, with the hope that one day, if we identify the genes and the mechanism, we will be able to develop new drugs. So my hope for the future is now, if we understand and put all this together, we will be able to work together as a community and come from not just the discovery of the pathways, but also develop new drugs for kidney disease and chronic kidney disease, especially diabetic kidney disease development.
Tushar, let me ask you now, how would you use being the recipient of this award to influence others? And what difference do you think this will make to your career?
The way I look at it, it's like the entire population of Europe put together has chronic kidney disease. And that's a huge number. And the awareness amongst the people, amongst the general population, remains very poor. So using this honor, I think I have the platform of the International Society of Nephrology. I can try to use some of these platforms to create further awareness about this big silent killer that is a chronic kidney disease.
Carl, let me ask you, can you tell us about a teacher or a mentor who's had an impact on you or set you on your present path?
Thank you very much, Sam. This topic is near and dear to my heart, as I served for 20 years as a program director of the Clinician Investigator Training Program at Mayo Clinic. There are three individuals who have fundamentally influenced me, and all have been indeed served as president of the American Society of Nephrology. The first is Dr. Thomas Ferris, who was the chair of medicine at the University of Minnesota. The second is Dr. Thomas Hostetter. I was mentored in his lab, and I was very much imbued with one of his early papers. And the third person I'd like to mention is something that I think is not really recognized as much as it should be. Mentors are indeed mentored by their mentees.
And Bill, let me ask you finally, what advice would you have for junior colleagues?
Well, I've had some experience training junior colleagues. Our lab has trained about 60 people over the course of my career, and about 20 of them are still in academic medicine. And when people start training in the lab, I usually sit down and have a kind of tough love talk to them and say, let me tell you what the qualities are that will make you a success in this business. And the first one is intellect. You wouldn't be here if I didn't think you were smart enough to do what you're going to try to do. The second one, which probably represents 25% or so of the total, is work ethic, because there are going to be lots of smart people out there working very hard. And if you're not willing to work as hard as they do, you'll get left behind. And the third one is kind of a hard to define self-confidence, self-image, ability to project yourself kind of quality, which some people have and some people don't have, but it accounts for probably 25% of your likelihood of succeeding in academic medicine.
Well, thank you all for talking with us today, and many congratulations on your awards. Well, that brings us to the end of our final episode of the WCN Daily. Thanks again for joining us for the first ever Virtual World Congress of Nephrology. Well, whilst we might be finished here, there's still another jam-packed day of exciting sessions left, from artificial intelligence to AKI. We hope that you enjoyed the rest of the Congress.